Hello, I'm Ben, and today we are going to be taking a relaxed identify of the domain of Peace Cleric. God. The Cleric class was given 3 new domains in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and I think the Twilight Cleric is definitely the most prolific out of the 3. That is not to say the other 2 aren't worthwhile. Me and Al have already covered the other 2 domains, which I can link up above. And I think if there's anything I've learned from these identifies is that the other 2 domains really deserve some spotlight as well, as they have really interesting things going on. The Peace domain especially is very interesting to me, as they have found a way to keep this Peace domain from being the pacifist domain, which can have a lot of problems in this system. Rather than swear off of violence, Peace domain clerics fight for that peace, both in communities signing treaties or against those who would seek to stop peace from flourishing. I can see so many wholesome character concepts coming out of this, and I think this domain really uniquely allows a cleric player to dig into the lore of a setting, because you're going to be asking questions about the conflicts in the world or the wars going on, these things that would give you a reason to seek a god of peace. A lot of times my cleric players have trouble personalizing their domain and by extension deity to make their character feel more real, but I don't think this domain has that problem at all. Your reason for being a peace domain is so personal and so tied to your community as well. I think the Peace domain has a really strong identity, which we will also see in their domain spells. Each domain gets domain spells. These spells are always prepared and do not count against the amount of spells that you can prepare in a day. They are also considered cleric spells for you. At first level, Peace domain clerics get Heroism and Sanctuary. At third level, they gain Aid and Warding Bond. At 5th level, they get Beacon of Hope and Sending. At 7th level, they gain Aura of Purity and Resilient Sphere. I know, I'm a coward. I don't know how to say that. Ought-to-look. Ought-to-lukes. O-T-lukes. Ought-to-luckies. And then at 9th level, they gain Greater Restoration and Rary's Telepathic Bond. I like this so much. Each one of these goes to reinforce the identity of the domain in one way or another. There's also a really nice variety here of both in combat and out of combat utility. Most of these are really strong choices. I do wish they were able to fit calm emotions in there somewhere. I think that is super flavorful for what they're trying to accomplish. It might have been nice to see aid replaced with calm emotions, but otherwise I think these are very strong supportive options. And we will be seeing throughout the rest of this domain that it is definitely a supportive cleric. However, a lot of those supportive options are built straight into the domain, which opens you up as a cleric to pick other spells and abilities that are more offensive or perhaps out of combat. The fact that you gain spells like Heroism, Warding Bond, Beacon of Hope as always prepared spells opens you up to take those other spells like Guiding Bolt or Spirit Guardians. Not that you wouldn't take those anyways. But this does open you up to be very flexible. Their next ability does this as well, Implement of Peace. At first level, you gain proficiency in your choice from Insight, Performance, or Persuasion. This very nicely shores up the measly 2 skill proficiencies that clerics get at base. Obviously, the strongest choice here is Insight, as that goes off of your main ability score, and Performance is probably the weakest. Persuasion is very in flavor for the domain, and having that proficiency will help you try to do some of the things that this domain wants you to do. This skill proficiency does get much better if we consider multiclassing, but we'll talk about that later. Also at first level, Peace Domain Clerics gain Emboldening Bond. As an action, you can choose a number of willing creatures equal to your proficiency bonus to bond together. For the next 10 minutes, or until you use this ability again, these creatures can add 1d4 to an attack roll, a skill check, or an ability saving throw as long as they are within 30 feet of each other. They can only do this once per turn, however. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus before you have to spend a long rest to do so again. Cleric is a stupidly dippable multi-class, and Peace Domain is a stupid dippable domain. This ability is fantastic. It is very rare that your party is going to be in a situation where they are farther than 30 feet from one another. So it's going to be super easy to see the value of this ability. It being an action does make it a little tougher to use in combat. However, if this is something that you are using in preparation for a fight, or if you are doing a heist kind of situation or some other skill challenge, then this is incredibly useful. Because this ability doesn't require concentration, this stacks with Bless. And if you're out of spell slots, it stacks with Guidance. That means once per turn, you are adding 2d4 to an attack roll, a skill check, an ability saving throw. On average, that is a +6. Mathematically, that is better than advantage. And this lasts for 10 minutes. In a small enough dungeon, you could pop this at the beginning and use it for the entire time without having to use another use of this feature. This makes Peace Domain Cleric a really awesome multi-class for a lot of different kinds of characters. This is a fantastic dip for any single target damage dealer, especially for rogues. This really ensures that whatever attack they're going to be making on their turn is going to land, and it is also useful for them outside of combat, really making them experts in their skills. I can see this coupling really well with a Divine Soul Sorcerer who can make one of these checks with an extra 2d4, and then if they still fail after that, they can use their Divine Soul ability to roll another 2d4. What also makes this incredibly dippable is that it keys off of your proficiency bonus and not your cleric level. This means you can take one level dip in cleric and see the value of the whole ability with no problem, no matter what levels you're taking. I also like that in bigger battles, this influences the movement of the party. Man, this is cool. At second level, Peace Domain Clerics gain their channel Divinity, Balm of Peace. As an action, they can move up to their speed without provoking opportunity attacks. When they move within 5 feet of a creature, they can choose to restore a number of hit points equal to 2d6 plus their wisdom modifier to that creature. A creature can only receive this healing once whenever you take this action. This is a very good emergency button ability for a backline support character. I'm imagining a situation where the battle is raging on and all of your allies got decimated. You are the last one standing, and in a last-ditch effort, you run around the battlefield, healing them all and turning the tide of the battle. In the inverse situation, if a monster circumvents the front line and comes to fight you, you can get out of there without provoking opportunity attacks and also heal your allies in the process. Unfortunately, this is not your movement for the turn, so this doesn't synergize with a Rogue's Cunning action or with Goblin. It does, however, synergize with backseat, which is very interesting. If you have an ally who is down and far away, you can use your feline agility ability and still be able to get them and heal them. At 6th level, Peace Domain gains Protective Bond. Whenever a creature affected by the Emboldening Bond feature is about to take damage, a second bonded creature within 30 feet can expend their reaction to teleport within 5 feet of that creature. When they do so, they take all damage instead of the first creature. This is another great emergency button feature and really shows the adaptability to combat that the Peace Domain brings to the table. If your rogue is about to go down, or if the enemies have flanked a particularly squishy target, then your paladin or barbarian can swoop in and take that damage for them. Not only that, but they are now within 5 feet of the offending baddies and are in a perfect position to retaliate. My only problem with this feature is that it is so dependent on your Emboldening Bond feature, which is long rest dependent. So if you lose that Emboldening Bond feature, both of these abilities are offline until you are able to take a long rest. 8th level is super easy for Peace Domain. They gain Potent Spellcasting, allowing them to add their Wisdom modifier to the damage of any cleric cantrips. This is fine. I do desperately wish that there were some non-damage dealing ability for clerics. Maybe like they add their Wisdom modifier to any healing they do. Or whenever a creature gains healing from a cleric spell or ability you have, they gain temporary hit points equal to your Wisdom modifier. And then if people do want to deal damage, then they can just take the variant class feature that is already in Tasha's. This isn't necessarily a problem with the Peace Domain in any way, but these are things I think about. And the final ability for the Peace Domain is Expansive Bond, which comes at 17th level. The benefits of Emboldening Bond and Protective Bond now work out to a range of 60 feet, and furthermore, when a creature uses the Protective Bond feature, they gain resistance to the incoming damage. This is a nice, short, and sweet capstone ability. It doesn't really bring anything new to the table, which is sad, but it does improve on the features that are already there. Like I said at the beginning, I don't think there are going to be too many situations in combat where your party is farther than 30 feet from each other. We're in a game with a Twilight Cleric right now, and it is super rare for us to be outside of that aura. But 60 feet will pretty much cover any outlying cases. And that resistance to damage is actually stupid good. We need to remember here that now that you're 17th level, your proficiency bonus is +6. That means when you use this feature, you can target 6 creatures and you can do it 6 times. So it's going to be pretty common that you and your party are pretty much always under the effects of Emboldening Bond. And this can actually get kind of silly because if you're in a situation where perhaps a dragon breathes a cone of fire on all of your party, they can all use their reactions to all take half damage. That's before they even make a saving throw, so they could have it again, especially since they're adding that handy 1d4 to their saving throws. All in all, I think the Peace Domain is really nice. It has a lot of cool features that are really solid. The 1-level dip is so good for a lot of builds, and there is room to grow throughout the domain. Personally, I wish it wasn't so centered around that Emboldening Bond feature. It is a really strong thematic ability, and I do really like when abilities are built upon in an archetype. However, I think they build upon it a little too much, meaning that you're pretty dependent on that Emboldening Bond feature to see the value of your domain. I mean, once you are out of Emboldening Bonds, all you have is that channel Divinity, which is also an expended resource. To me, I think the real value of this domain is in multiclassing. Either slapping a level or 2 of this onto your rogue or sorcerer, or taking levels in this class and then multiclassing out of it. Peace Domain can really benefit from 2 specific multiclasses, either the College of Eloquence Bard, or even better, the Fey Wanderer Ranger. A big part of the identity of this domain is talking with people and signing contracts and causing a bridge to be formed between 2 opposing forces. That can be a little difficult to do if you ain't so good at talking. And both of these multi-classes have 3rd level abilities that supplement your persuasive abilities. The Fey Wanderer allowing you to add your wisdom modifier to persuasion checks, and College of Eloquence ensuring that you will never roll lower than a 10. College of Eloquence gives you some, I'll admit it, limited debuff utility, but Fey Wanderer also allows you to play this domain as a melee build, which I think is pretty interesting. With 8 levels in Peace Domain Cleric and 3 levels in Fey Wanderer, we see an interesting opportunity. You can switch out Potent Spellcasting, allowing you to add 1d8 radiant damage to your melee attacks. You also add a d4 from Psychic Strikes, and another d4 if you take Favored Foe, or a d6 if you're more of a Hunter's Mark kind of person. You can also round out this damage with things like Spirit Shroud, and then on top of that, you're adding at least that d4 from Emboldening Bond to your attack, creating an interesting and surprisingly viable melee option that also is very effective outside of combat. So with all of this considered, I think I need to give the Peace Domain Cleric 4 out of 5 cauldrons. I really like what's going on here. I do think it is being slept on a little bit, but the focus on exclusively improving the Emboldening Bond feature does keep this from being a 5 out of 5. So what are your thoughts on the Peace Domain Cleric? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, consider liking it. And if you like the kind of content we do here, please consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed and you want to find some other way to support us, you could consider buying us a coffee. We have more information about that in the links down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you on your next short rest.